For a reason that's always been unbeknownst to us, a lot of gamers lash out against indie games. Perhaps they've seen one too many PlayStation Plus and games with gold months without a certified AAA title to make their investment seem worth it, or maybe it's because they don't seem like the real deal. Graphics keep getting prettier and open worlds keep getting bigger. Assassin's Creed Odyssey? One day, one fine day, I will have time to deal with your absolute girth, but not today, my friend. But those people are really missing out, particularly when it comes to PS4 indie games. Sure, it can't get anywhere near Steam in terms of the output of quality fare from smaller studios, but there are still plenty to sink your teeth into, whether it's a throwback 2D platformer or a startlingly polished effort that looks like it came out from the likes of Ubisoft or EA. With that in mind, we decided to delve into our handsomely expanding library and bring you some of the best PS4 indie games there are. This is by no means a definitive list, and most of them aren't even exclusive to PlayStation, but they're all games you should be checking out nonetheless. We're checking out games that might have been published in part by Sony or a publisher of similar stature, just so they keep that true independent tag. Sorry, Journey, we love you, but it's time to talk about other games today. Go to sleep, we'll talk about you soon, it's fine. Number 10, HOTLINE Miami. The likes of Mr. Shifty owe a lot to HOTLINE Miami and its sequel, though it has to be said that it doesn't come anywhere close to matching the unforgettable aesthetic of the cardiac simulator from Dennaton Games. Looking like a pulp 80s action movie and boasting one of the best video game soundtracks ever made, it played a huge part in making synthwave as popular as it is now. HOTLINE Miami just stuck with the gaming consciousness. Do you like hurting other people? It's endlessly difficult, and you may even have to game the game to make progress at some points. But there's nothing quite as satisfying as solving the violent puzzle required to clear a room full of bad guys. Or maybe you're the bad guy. You're just going to have to play to find out, and then play the sequel, and then screech at Devolver forever for a third game that will never arrive. Number 9, Super Meat Boy. Have you ever felt like a piece of meat? Not in a sexually objectified kind of way, just that you genuinely feel like you may be a reincarnated pork chop? Well then, Super Meat Boy is the game for you, allowing you to flip and flop over its many challenging stages, all while giving you more cardiovascular problems than eating a whole cow would. Man, I'm hungry. Super Meat Boy helped to change the landscape of modern 2D platformers, offering the simplest gameplay with the toughest difficulty ceiling I think I have ever encountered. No matter how many times I was ground into mince, however, I kept coming back, refusing to be made out to look like a chicken. It has a delightfully sincere core to it too, despite all the blood and stuff, which never comes across as being hammy as you try to save your girlfriend from the clutches of a dastardly villain. You may meet your match with Super Meat Boy, but beef yourself up with a whole load of caffeine and I've totally lost control of all this. Just play the game. I need a ham sandwich. I'll be right back. Number 8, Darkest Dungeon. The perfect RPG for people who hate RPGs. Darkest Dungeon takes the well-worn tropes of the genre and makes them fresh, which is no easy task. It also helps that keeping your motley crew alive and, almost as importantly, sane, is one of the more interesting mechanics introduced to gaming in recent years, making each expedition into dark dungeons that much more intense. Featuring a distinctive art style and a difficulty curve that goes from a straight line to bottom of a canyon without warning, Darkest Dungeon is not going to be for everyone. It's stressful in the best kind of way, meaning that each successful mission feels miraculous and worth celebrating. On the other side of the coin, failure in Darkest Dungeon will feel like a knife to the gut. You don't so much visit the world created by Red Hook Studios as you do climb inside and hope to come out of it alive. Number 7, Inside. The war between Inside and Limbo will rage on for years, with most gamers split down the middle on which Playdead title is the best. While Limbo was a captivating, almost horrifyingly brutal game that captured more than just a few plaudits years back, Inside has to claim a spot on this list for taking the groundwork and running with it. Almost everything that was great about Limbo has been upgraded for Inside. It looks better, offering denser and more gloomily vibrant environments while also managing to ramp up the fear factor. There isn't anything that stays with you quite like watching a young boy be forcefully drowned. Better yet, the masterful ambiguity of everything in Inside means that it's one of those rare times when a game allows you to come to your own conclusions without seeming like a cop-out. Also, those dogs make Rezzies look like chihuahuas. Number 6, Stardew Valley. Stardew Valley is a game that's going to very quietly but unrepentantly take over your gaming routine, tasking with plucking parsnips in the early hours of the morning, and you're going to love every second of it. One of the most relaxing games ever made, time passes slowly in Stardew Valley. The only real objective is to keep your farm afloat. You can go for broke and amass a farm that will make Walmart frown, or just keep it simple and go social. making friends in town and eventually finding love. It's the perfect antidote to the stresses of everyday life, so whether your life is unravelling or you are worried your YouTube channel might not be that good, sink into a simpler lifestyle and unwind. Number 5. FURI. A simple but devilishly difficult action game, FURI features an ever-dastardly rose gallery of bosses for you to defeat on your path to freedom. Absolutely dripping with style and some rather filthy beats from the likes of Carpenter Brute, this is one of the coolest indie games on the market that really deserves more love. With the gameplay consisting of a continuous boss rush, you'd be forgiven for thinking that FURI loses its luster as it wears on. Not the case at all. In fact, it gets better as you descend into the rhythm madness of avoiding a screen filled with attacks, your sword in one hand and a gun in the other. We are going to be furious with you if you overlook this game. I think that's the worst pun I've ever made, there's so many of them, but that's right up there. Jeez. Number 4. Celeste. Some games are about finding something, maybe a legendary sword or artifact that you can save the world with. In Matt Makes Games' Celeste though, it's all about finding yourself as you guide a young woman up a daunting mountain by the name of Celeste Mountain. An inch-perfect platformer with enough content to tide you over until your jumping finger bleeds, Celeste may look simple, but it's actually fiendishly difficult, especially if you're looking for full completion. The limited use of the mid-air dash makes platforming surprisingly tactical, though playing in assist mode clears up some frustrations you may encounter. Celeste is also a game with a ton of heart, it dealing with mental health issues with grace and respect. There's a reason why it went toe-to-toe with the infinitely bigger likes of God of War and Red Dead for Game of the Year 2018. Number 3. Shovel Knight. Now here's possibly one of the most pro-consumer games ever made, let alone one of the best indie games the PS4 has to offer. Years after launch, Yacht Club Games finally announced that they would stop adding free content to Shovel Knight, even though they had no obligation to do so all this time, they just kinda could. Supporting a game for so long is only worthwhile if a game has fans, I mean that's why Anthem hasn't been updated in forever, but Shovel Knight certainly isn't lacking those. A fun spin on classic side-scrollers, Shovel Knight lets you jump on opponents' head with your trusty shovel, all on your path to stopping the Order of No Quarter. The eponymous Shovel Knight has crossed over into plenty of other properties over the years, so if you aren't familiar with the new platformer icon, pick this one up on the cheap and support indie at its best. Number 2. What Remains of Edith Finch. While some may refer to What Remains of Edith Finch as a walking simulator, in kind of a derogatory way for some reason, it really does the game a disservice. It's true that the gameplay is pretty hands-off and doesn't pose much of a challenge, though there aren't many games out there that allow you to be a monster aboard a ship and an imaginary king over the space of just a few hours. Following the titular Edith Finch's return to her family home, What Remains takes you through the seemingly cursed existence of the Finch bloodline, from one tragic vignette to the next. It's a deeply affecting experience that, more than most, proves that video games are art. High praise, but you try to walk away from the sequence in the cannery without feeling anything. It was also on PlayStation Plus quite a while back, so if you've added it to your library but haven't downloaded it, give it a shot. And number 1, Dead Cells. Possibly the definition of an indie game, Dead Cells was developed and published by Motion Twin, a worker cooperative where everyone involved with a game's development is equal. That paid dividends for Dead Cells, with their combined vision coming together to create a wholly excellent Roguevania. An early access success story, that's really hard to say. Dead Cells doesn't overload the player with exposition and background lore, no. You're just a series of weird worm things who inhabit a suit of armour and keep coming back to life. There's more to it than that, but the story isn't really the main attraction here. Featuring some absolutely demonic bosses and an always changing gameplay experience, Dead Cells' permadeath will keep you playing even after you put your fist through a wall. Motion Twin have supported it extremely well since launch, so it's as good a time as any to dive in and die, and die, and die, and die again. In a good way. So there you have it, our picks for the best indie games on the PlayStation 4. What did we miss? We couldn't include everything we wanted to, it's only a top 10, there's a lot we couldn't quite fit in, so let us know what we're missing down below, and then give us a like and subscribe. Also, is my voice really that annoying? Oh, okay.